VSiN and DraftKings Network. This show is always presented by DraftKings. Mike Palm, Stormy Buonantony, live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Lots to get to in the PGA, the NBA, and NHL postseason. Does Palm have a qualm at the end of the hour?
You weren't here last Friday. Joe Cerullo filled in. You were in Alaska with your cruise. But Steph had a good one that I had a qualm with that hit that night. Would the Panthers score over 5.5 goals plus 750? I said, I'm under 5.5 for both teams, so I have to have a qualm with it. And they end up winning 6-1. They scored 2 goals in the last 3 minutes.
That's good.
That was a great one.
What was the price on that?
Plus 750.
Okay, there you go.
She nailed it.
There you go. And we'll talk a little hockey in a moment. Coming up in 15 minutes as well, Marshall Harris, sports director at CBS in Chicago. We'll talk all things Bears, Caleb Williams, their schedule, get into a lot of that. And where we have to start, though, is where every show in the country is starting today in the sports world. Scottie Scheffler, who at the PGA Championship this morning ends up in an incident that ultimately results in him getting arrested, facing second-degree felony charges for assaulting an officer, 3 other misdemeanor charges. He's posted a statement, saying that there was a misunderstanding, that ideally they'll get things worked out. But what I want to say is he's released from jail this morning at 8:40 Eastern. He makes his way back to the course at 9:12 Eastern, has an abbreviated warm-up, makes his tee time at 10:08 Eastern, birdies his first hole, has since birdied 5 on the day. He's 4 under and a stroke off of the lead. He is our new favorite once again after Xander Schauffele had that record-breaking day yesterday. So in all of the chaos, Scottie Scheffler is here sitting atop the odds board or near it.
He's played, 8 holes so far today, and he's 5 under? Incredible.
He's in the back 9 now.
He started with the back 9, though, because there's so many golfers, they can't all play 1 through 18.
Yes.
But he's like 5 under through 6 or 7 holes or 8 holes so far. I mean, just absolutely amazing. And as I said to you when we saw the number, the favoritism has to have shifted, and indeed, he's anywhere from 260 to 280, and you can find Xander from 280 to 320 now before he even tees off. But pretty remarkable. Didn't seem to faze him, and I guess the warm-up wasn't that important that it was cut short.
He is through 13 holes today. He's got on the front 9 2 birdies. He had 3 on the back 9 to start things off. His first 3 holes, birdie, bogey, birdie, par through 5 more, and then birdied the final hole on 18 there before he went up to the front of the course. But just still, considering everything that he went through this morning, having a mugshot taken, getting booked, having an officer say he was dragged by his vehicle and assaulted, and again, of course, as we talk about all of this, it's very important to note the reason all of this happened was because there was a loss of life. A pedestrian who was walking to the golf course to work today got struck by a shuttle bus, and Scottie Scheffler, in his statement, kind of divulging a little bit of what happened from his experience, was still extremely classy, did not put himself first in any of that situation, recognized the issue that is at hand. And I think that says a lot about Scottie Scheffler and just the groundedness with which he comes from. And we hear it in his press conferences all the time, the type of person he is. He is a very religious man. When his wife was pregnant before she had the baby, he wasn't afraid to leave the Masters even if he had a lead going into the final round because other things are important to him. And I thought, given all of the surrounding circumstances behind the scenes at Valhalla and the PGA today, kudos to him for being the person that he is to get out of this. Also, just don't drag anybody with your car. I'd be very curious to see that video, by the way. I wonder if the golf club has any cameras out there or anything, because all of the footage that we saw this morning was from ESPN's Jeff Darlington, who just happened to be out there as well, trying to make his way to the course.
Yeah. He's a very, you said it well, even-keeled, even-tempered kind of guy, right? A little flat, a little, you don't have to worry about him taking your job, I don't think, Stormy. But he's young, too, when you think about it. He's still 27 or 28 years old, so relatively young, and the focus that he's been able to have, and was he going to be rusty? He missed 2 weeks waiting for the baby to come and the birth of the child. He's in stroke, no problems with muscle memory there, and he's just a machine who keeps on going and now taking the lead. It's funny, Tony Finau shot 6 under yesterday, right? And he hasn't teed off yet. Now you can get him at 28 to 1. I mean, there's some opportunities here if you want to fade Scheffler, where guys that had terrific first rounds are big prices right now.
Yeah, and just to give you a glimpse at the odds board right now, live, Scottie Scheffler, plus 260 favorite, has leapfrogged Xander Schauffele, who sits there plus 280, around 3-1. Colin Morikawa, 5-1. Rory McIlroy, who opened yesterday 7-1, plus 550. Brooks Koepka, 16-1. And Sahith Theegala, 22-1.
Morikawa is actually the leader right now. He's 5 under through 15, putting him at 10 under, a shot ahead of Hubbard and Schauffele, who will tee off in about 33 minutes.
All right, yeah, 11:38 Pacific when he will get underway. Let's go to the NBA. Crazy game last night. The Denver Nuggets, after storming ahead in the series, winning 3 straight games, it looked like all was lost after the first 2 at home, but they rally back, and then like a cookie and milk, they crumble yesterday, losing by 45. I was stunned last night, and we talked about it with our good friend of the show, Raheem Palmer, moments ago before we hit the break. I have no idea what to make of this set.
Well, you think about it. This year, you're defending NBA champions and favorites to win the West. They tied with Oklahoma City, but by the tiebreaker, got the 2 seed. I mean, what did they end up losing game 2 by in the 30s as well? I mean, so they've been totally routed in 2 games in this series by this upstart Minnesota Timberwolves team. I guess the question for Game 7 is, how well can Minnesota play? You're going to have to go in a Game 7 to Denver, where you did win the first 2 games of the series. But I think most people thought they were going to close out last night, as you did. You said yesterday on the show. Mm-hmm. So anything can happen in a Game 7 format, and the pressure obviously is going to be on Denver. Minnesota, not a lot of people. I know there's folks out there at this network that have decent tickets on them. I think JVT has them at 35-1 to win the West. I think Paul has them around 75-1 to win it all. So you get into a clear hedge spot, at least by getting to Game 7.
Yeah.
But you could have taken Denver at the plus price for the series after the first 2 games when the favoritism switched as well. So I have no idea what's going to happen in this game. I will not be placing a wager. I'll simply be watching. You know what's interesting, Stormy? We talked about Knicks Pacers with Raheem last segment. The ratings, though, and the handle on the Knicks series are incredible. It's like they are by far the most interest, and from a betting side as well, even more so than this series, which I would have thought would have been the highest volume series. Knicks Pacers has been the highest rated series of this round. And the one game, the Knicks Sixers, is the highest single rated game of the playoffs so far in terms of TV viewing.
Same spread for the game coming up, by the way. Yeah. Nuggets, Timberwolves, a 5-point favorite. Denver is at home in Ball Arena. Knicks getting 5.5. Raheem said he liked them to close out the set tonight against the Pacers. Total 215.5. He said maybe that sprinkle on the money line to get the closeout win, plus 170. But plus 5.5 the price right there. And another thing he mentioned was that this game had to be pushed back a day so the Knicks have a little extra rest because of Caitlin Clark's home debut with the Fever. And I know you are an Iowa man. You have loved watching every step of the way for Caitlin Clark. But that Diana Taurasi statement of reality is coming has hit early. What I don't like, though, Mike, is all of the people that are calling her a bust already, saying it's not going to work, without recognizing that the Fever are one of the worst teams in the WNBA.
So the reality was Lynn Dunn's Indiana Fever roster is what the reality that hit her. Not that I watched every play of the first game against Connecticut, and then last night I was done at halftime because the result was long gone. It was really gone in the first quarter, even the point spread. This team is horrible. Nobody can create a shot for themselves.
He has zero help.
They just don't. I mean, and even Aaliyah Boston, you've got to get her the ball in a good spot in the paint. She's not a really creator as well. So I was surprised the first game that every time they get a rebound, they just look to her and throw her the ball. Like she's the only one that can bring it down the court. It's pretty amazing. So everybody's asking me about her points, her assist props. Just fade this team till the market catches up with them. I mean, that line last night, I said with Mitch and Paul, way off. 7.5 it was at that time. It had gone from 6.5. I think we closed 9. They won by 30-something. Yeah. It's because of her that the lines are so out of line. And until the market catches up with how bad this team is, granted, she hasn't played great. 10 turnovers. Now, I would have said 4 of them were balls she hit her teammates in the hands on and they fumbled away. But too many loose dribbles. She's been stripped of the ball a few times. It's going to be a long road for her with this team. Yeah,
but again, the Fever are not a good basketball team. They won 5 games 2 years ago. They won 11 last year. I said this on the show yesterday. They didn't have the number 1 pick 2 years in a row because they're really good. And you look at the start of their schedule. So they have the Sun, 2 games against the Liberty, home and road. So we'll see what the adjustment is going to be on that game
on
for
the
Saturday.
road, they're going to probably, what do you think it's going to be? Maybe there's an opener out there. Doesn't it have to be like 14 or 15, that number?
It would have to be. They lose 102 to 66 last night at home. On the road there at the Liberty Saturday, at the Sun again. You have Seattle, LA, and then the Vegas Aces. So of those first 7 games that the Fever are playing, 5 of them, 3 of the teams that they're facing are against teams that were either in the WNBA finals or semifinals last year. Yeah. The Connecticut Sun, who were the team that was bounced before the finals by the Liberty, by the way, are the best defensive team in the league. So, yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle, especially out the gates right now.
Meanwhile, I don't know what the ratings were last night, but the ratings on our first night was the highest rated game for the WNBA.
It's over 2 million people.
And it was on ESPN2. Remember that as well, going up against NBA and the NHL playoffs. So I don't think people are giving up yet, but it's going to be a long season to watch. So I'd bet their win total and just keep betting them game to game. That's the value here.
And the purpose of when I was talking about this on the show yesterday that I think is still important about like fading her props and fading different things is, in addition to the level of competition she's playing, she's got a huge target on her back. Every team that plays her isn't normally on national television. Now they get the spotlight against the girl that's supposed to be the golden child who's making all this endorsement monies and stuff. Like, she has a lot against her, especially early, I would say.
I do, but I don't think that, that interview when SVP has Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird and Taurasi on right after
UConn.
They lost with a controversial foul. I mean, I don't think that the sentiment of the league is going to be, we want to destroy this girl. They're flying on private jets because of her. Right? They have charter flights.
Well, that's what I hope, is that they recognize what she's doing for the league as a whole. It's good for her to do better and have the Fever be better. So we'll see if that'll happen, just not early. We'll be right back. Talking to Marshall Harris next on the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with Stormy Buonantony and Mike Palm on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
For a limited time, we here at VSiN are offering our annual subscription at a new unbeatable price. Usually $240. You can now grab a subscription for just $199. And if you sign up today, we're also giving you an extra 2 months for free. So that's 14 months of VSiN Pro access for less than 50 cents a day when you use our promo code Lombardi. With VSiN Pro, you get instant access to our daily best bets with the leaderboard to see which VSiN expert has the hot hand, betting splits to show you where the money and bets are moving for every game, betting system, premium analysis, and 24/7 video access. Visit vsin.com/subscribe to claim your 14 months of VSiN Pro for only $199 with the promo code, again, Lombardi. Alongside Mike Palm, Stormy Buonantony with you. Hoping to have Marshall Harris join us in a moment, director of CBS Chicago. But let's go on the theme of the Chicago Bears here, because earlier in hour one, as we were discussing the schedule release, you noted that the Chicago Bears, you feel like, have a pretty decent schedule out the gates for their young rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams.
I think the front half of their schedule is very winnable. I mean, I think that they could could very easily start 7-3 is very reasonable for them to attain, and to get Caleb Williams into a good mind frame. I think that's one of the questions some people may have about Caleb Williams. Is not his arm talent, but maybe a little bit his leadership. How does he do when the chips are down? He didn't have to talk to the media when they lost at USC and all that. That's not, you can't do that in the NFL. That's part of it. You're going to have to answer questions in that. But he's got some weapons there. I think the million-dollar question with the Bears is what Michael outlined a few weeks ago. Do you trust their offensive line? If you believe in their offensive line, then this team has a lot of potential. But if you think they have question marks, it may be in a fade spot here. The defense was terrific last year. To me, they had the best run defense. I know that the stats bore it out for a lot of the year. A terrific run defense. And that's one of the reasons, like, when you look at rookie passing yards, I know he's even money, but their defense is good that they're going to get them the ball back, right? It's like somebody asked me a question on the network the other day, is Bo Nix at 8-1 a better bet than Caleb Williams at even money for most passing yards? I don't think the Denver defense is very good. And so then necessarily, if you're really horrific, like in college, you get more possessions like LSU, but that's not the case in the NFL, where if you can't get the other team off the field, you're going to limit the number of passing attempts and possessions that somebody has. So I wouldn't look at Bo Nix for that, even at 8-1.
And by the way, the steps that the Chicago Bears made defensively the back end of the season, probably a big reason why Matt Eberflus still has his job and has the opportunity to see what he can do with this young number 1 overall pick in the rookie Caleb Williams. We do have Marshall Harris on the line, CBS director out there in Chicago. Appreciate you joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, Marshall. And let's pick up right there then with this Bears offensive line real quickly. Do you have belief in that unit that they can protect Caleb Williams?
I think they can. I think it has been a big question mark, but part of the reason the Bears offensive line was questioned is because, let's be honest, Justin Fields does not get rid of the ball in a hurry. One of the slowest quarterbacks, at times the slowest quarterback in the NFL, in getting rid of the football. Caleb Williams isn't built like that. He's going to make the plays that I think are more pedestrian. Now, will he have the wow factor that Justin Fields has when he takes off his legs? No. I mean, he can run the football, but I don't think the offensive line is as bad as everybody tries to make the offensive line out to be. They went out, they got some help at the center position with Coleman Shelton. They've got Doug Kramer Jr. Tevin Jenkins has been good. Darnell Wright, solid top 10 pick, played like it in his rookie season. Now, Nate Davis has got to stay on the field. He had some stuff he was dealing with off the field last year. And Braxton Jones has been solid as well. I think as much as anything, it was what was schemed up for the Bears offense. And now you've got a new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, who knows what he's doing. No one has faith in the man that had that job last year.
Marshall, when we look at the Bears' schedule, I think it's pretty favorable through Week 10, and then all the division games are packed in the back 40% of the schedule. I think the Bears have a real shot to be at least 6-4, maybe 7-3 or better heading into the meat of their schedule with the division teams. It's a tough division, though. Obviously, Detroit was up 17 in the second half in the NFC Championship game. The Packers, you argue, were the best team the back half of the year and were ahead in San Francisco as well. Where do the Bears stack up in this division, and do you think that they're a playoff team?
So that's tough because you're like, I think that the NFC North is the second toughest division in football, behind the AFC Central. That's just my personal opinion, right? I think with Minnesota, Detroit, obviously the way Jordan Love played in Green Bay last year, I think they're all going to be in the mix. Like, how good Detroit's going to be, I'm not sure I'm ready to crown them as champions or anything. Minnesota's got some questions, obviously, at quarterback, but Green Bay played well. I think they can be a playoff team, but I think their schedule is about as favorable as it can be in that you have a rookie quarterback with working in the NFL for the first time with an offensive coordinator that knows what he's doing, knows how to get the best out of guys. We saw that in Seattle. I think it's nice that it kind of builds up to that division level. So like you said, it's a little softer on the front end so that Caleb Williams can adjust, can acclimate. I don't know if he's going to be good enough to take them to the 10, 11 wins that they would need to make a playoff, though, because looking around the conference, you could see where other teams might be in that same kind of middle of the pack road. So I think it's going to come down really to the last month of the season, which is what the NFL likes to do by design, right?
Plus 265, the Bears are in the NFC North. The Lions a plus 150 favorite, and you're right, both the North divisions on each side are very, very challenging, it appears on paper this year. Speaking to Caleb Williams, though, Matt Eberflus comes out, says right away, no qualms about it, he's going to be the day one starter, which I like. It's not like we're having the back and forth of, oh, he's got to earn it. You're the number one overall pick. Everybody knew what you were going to do. Let's announce this guy the starter. And Caleb Williams, to the media afterwards, talking about how he views leadership, seemed to exude a lot of maturity, which is, his personality has kind of been polarizing for a lot of people from the outside looking in. What has he shown you and Bears fans to this point? And are you a believer that the personality thing is not going to be an issue with Chicago?
Yeah, I didn't really understand the personality thing because it seemed like, to me, as a guy who was obviously living and working in Chicago, like, let me see what this guy is about. I went to Detroit. I was at the draft. I was there the day before, the day of, and just talking to him, those conversations, I look at rookies like one of usually three ways, right? They're the guys that you just know belong, right? Like, okay, I don't know, it might take a minute to acclimate, but they belong. They're the guys who are just, oh, shucks, I'm just happy to be here, right? And then there are the guys who just look completely overwhelmed. To me, Caleb Williams falls into that first category. The way he presents, the way he talks about things, the way he talks about how long he's been waiting for this moment, whether it was being a starting quarterback or being just the number one overall pick in the draft, that was a goal of his a dozen years ago, right? And he did everything in his power to get there. And I think people read a little too much into, the performance that he had, on let's be honest, a bad USC team. The team was not good. It was not built to win national championships or anything. I think now with a professional team and with those weapons the Bears went and got, they already had DJ Moore, but now you get Keenan Allen in a trade. Romo Dunze with another top 10 pick. Those guys seem like they're in lockstep. I like Caleb Williams. I don't think he can be in any better of a situation. We can contrast this to the last regime that had Andy Dalton out here starting, and then he gets hurt, and then Justin Fields rushed into action. This is a completely different feeling from what happened with Justin Fields' rookie year.
Marshall, in your heart of hearts, are the Bears going to Arlington, or do they wind up staying at Soldier Field?
Man, listen, I've gone back and forth this in my mind. I think they really do want to be down on the lakefront. I just can't see it happening. They own the land. And what we do know, you guys are in the money business. What we do know is money talks, right? And if you could be the landlord, you're good. They could be the landlord in Arlington Heights. I just can't see the city giving them the money that they want. Y'all saw what happened with Kansas City trying to get a new stadium, right?
Yep.
There's no public appetite for that stuff right now. We got real problems and money that's got to go to other places. These are multi-billion-dollar companies. Do what you do as a multi-billion-dollar company. Don't look for handouts. You're not getting it.
Marshall, because we are in the money business, before we let you go, I know the Bulls are out of the playoffs, but you're still dialed into the NBA postseason, and you do have a play. What do you think?
Man, give me the Mavs all day, all night. It was a nice run. OKC's just too young. Luka looks as healthy as he has all playoffs. After that, what he did on the road with a 30-point triple-double, I like the Mavs tonight to cover and move on.
Okay, look at you, Marshall. Appreciate your time. Have you covered any spike ball recently, by the way, before I let you go?
You know what's funny, Stormy? I have a spike ball hat I wear all the time. People are like, you know about spike ball? I was like, not only do I know about it, I called the national championship of spike ball back in the day. I love it.
Heck yes, you did. That is how I met Marshall Harris. Appreciate your time so much. Keep crushing it out there with CBS in Chicago. And I hope the Bears have a great season so that you have something fun to cover.
I hope so, too. You guys have a great day. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, when I was working my way up at ESPN, I've done a number of broadcasts on ESPN 8, The Ocho, and that included some spike ball, that included some cornhole, but we had a ton of fun. We covered the national championship. We called the SEC title as well. Georgia, Texas A&M, spike ball. Must-see TV.
You went from the spike ball national championship to the college football national championship, Stormy.
Amazing what can happen in a couple years, ladies and gentlemen. If you can dream it, you can do it. We'll be right back on the Lombardi Line. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Lombardi Line with Stormy Buonantony and Mike Palm on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
That's a good video of you there holding the football. Looks good.
Listen, I was actually a wishbone quarterback when I was in junior. Not a lot of passing.
Beautiful, beautiful. I was impressed with the form. Check out VSiN.com if you haven't already. More of that, I'm sure. Best bets from all of our show hosts and guests, betting splits, exclusive articles, including right now with the NBA and NHL playoffs. Best bets and futures updates each and every day on the website. Make sure you check it out now at VSiN.com. A quick PGA Championship update for you. Colin Morikawa now at 11 under, 6 under for the day through 16. He has surged up the leaderboard. Scottie Scheffler 8 under for the tournament, 3 strokes back of the lead, 4 under today through 14. Xander Schauffele still yet to begin his round, but should start here soon.
Yeah, about less than 10 minutes here, so very interesting. I wish I didn't have a lot of work to do. We could sit here and hang out in the book, have a few beers, and watch golf for the next, 7-8 hours? It's amazing how light it stays when I watch these golf tournaments. It's like 8 o'clock on the East Coast and 7, and it seems like it's bright out. How are they doing this?
Yeah, no, it's the time of year, right? There you go. But I like that too when the sun is setting on the East Coast and we're watching some of those things and like the sun is just breezing, burrowing into my house. Yep, it's 95. Love it. Let's get back to the NFL a little bit here. Play a game of Bettor's Choice Totals Edition. I'm going to hit you with a little would you rather situation, one team versus the other, and who's over would you prefer? Let's start here with a division that we were just talking about moments ago with Marshall Harris. Would you rather bet the Detroit Lions over 10.5 or the Packers over 10.5? Juice is a little different here. Detroit minus 115 to the over, Green Bay plus 130.
Very tough question to start.
We don't make it easy on you, Mike.
I like this Lions team a lot, and I think Goff is like the perfect quarterback for them because he's so even-keeled. He plays within the system. They have a lot of ex-players in their coaching staff, including Dan Campbell. I'm going to go, even though I'm high on the Packers here, I'm going to take the Lions over 10.5 minus 115.
So are you a believer then that they're fully going to take off where they finished a season ago?
Well, that's the thing, and that's why I say Goff being even-keeled because Dan
he
Campbell
got paid
said,
now. He got paid. That's always a fear. I'm just giving you a hard time. Go ahead.
Touche, but Dan Campbell said immediately in the aftermath of losing that game in San Francisco, it's going to be really hard to get back to this point where you were in control of the NFC Championship game. It's almost like the Super Bowl loser's curse, but for the Lions, it's the NFC because they never get that far anyhow. The NFC Championship game. That's why I say I think they can persevere this. They're very talented offensively. I do like the Packers. I think they're on the rise, but I actually think as far as keeping the offensive coordinator and that coaching staff intact, I prefer that a little bit over the cheerleader in Green Bay.
Sure. So something that Michael and I talked about earlier this week with the Lions, because they do have their big three paid now on the offensive side of the ball. Will that hunger that they came to play with last year carry over? I believe it will, just because of those coaching staff and the people around them, as you mentioned.
And that community in Detroit.
Sure.
That's
what it is.
Them, right? I mean,
they have grit written on everything. It's what they do. And now, I know something we talked about a lot last year was they hadn't been here before. Now they have. Now they've had that experience. Now they know what it's like to win a playoff game at Ford Field.
Well, that's what we said about the Iowa women. Oh, now they don't have all the bright lights of the Final Four like they did last year. They know the whole routine.
All right. Let's hit you with this next one here. The Los Angeles Chargers' new head coach Jim Harbaugh win total 8.5 minus 155 to the over, or would you rather take the plus money price on the 8.5 with the Bucks to go over?
I'm going to take the Bucks, and I'm going to say this because I don't think Jim Harbaugh. I think he's one of the few coaches in the league that has so much rope that he doesn't have to win now because of his credentials. And what he did with the 49ers previously and what he's done at every college stop and now with a national championship under his belt, I think he can take the time to build this team the way he wants. What I hate is minus 155. I don't want to lay 155, Stormy. I'd rather go over 9 at a different price. I just think on win totals, you should be trying to look at plus prices or 120, 125 or less on these things. And I think the Bucks are playing in obviously a much, much easier division.
The Bucks are, I feel like, too, being very much so counted out, despite being a playoff team and winning the division last year.
And winning a playoff game last year. They routed the Eagles. But everybody wants to talk about the two-headed quarterback room in Atlanta.
What I will say about the Chargers, though, is you can tell that the league wants them to be 2-0 out the gates here. They're a 3-point favorite as they host Vegas week 1. Week 2, Chargers at Panthers opened 3, already bet up to 5 on the road. They also do have the league's 5th easiest schedule, according to last season's win percentage, 2nd easiest schedule, according to opponent win total. So, I mean, for a team that has to play in the AFC West and go against the Chiefs, who are minus 225 division favorite, pretty favorable schedule the way things played out for this new coaching staff.
Mitch Moss made an interesting point yesterday that in previous iterations of this Chargers team, not with Harbaugh there, but with Anthony Lynn and Staley, he would have loved to be betting against them in week 2 as they traveled across the country as a favorite. But he can't do it now. He's and the public realizes this too, as the line is almost a runaway early here, up to 5.5. I also think that the Chiefs at minus around $2. I know you quoted $2.25. I think you can find them at $2. Is a really good bet to win a division. Now, if you don't want to lay $2, maybe you find a couple. That's one of the things I have fun with. It's like trying to put 3 division winners in a parlay that plays plus money. And usually you're not disappointed. You take Buffalo and check a mark and things like that. I think Philadelphia is a really good division bet this year because I'm with you. I think there's regression coming in Dallas.
Well, let's go to that head-to-head then, shall we? It sounds like I already know your answer. Eagles and Cowboys both have a 10.5 win total, plus 105 for the Eagles, even money for Dallas. It sounds like you would rather take Philadelphia.
Yes, and I think, you could have got the Eagles at like 170 to win the division. Have they gotten to favoritism now in the East?
I believe they did flip back, yeah. It depends on the book, of course.
I think that's a very good bet, the Eagles to win the East, because Washington has a long way to go. I know they got Jaden Daniels. I think he'll be great. But that offensive line gave up all those sacks last year and all the interceptions. I think Dallas proved who they were. They were a very fraudulent team, and you saw the Packers expose that. I think the Eagles addressed their problems in the draft. They got not one but two cornerbacks to address their secondary issues. So I like Eagles more than Dallas here, and I like Eagles to win the division.
They were one of the proverbial winners, right, of the draft, the way things shook out.
Yep.
The latest odds I see on DraftKings right now, Dallas and Philly tied at plus 130. Tied the odds for it in the division.
Then I would say I prefer door C here, plus 130 on the Eagles to win the division.
There we go. The Washington Commanders plus 750 and New York Giants 10-1 to close out those division odds. Let's go to the NFC West. The San Francisco 49ers, 11.5 their win total, plus 115 against the reigning king of the North and the Ravens, also 11.5 plus 115.
I don't love either of these bets. I would rather.
I mean, neither schedule is easy, by the way, for high win totals and high expectations.
You bring up the point about the 49ers, but I think the 49ers have a better shot than the Ravens do, because I think the Ravens division is very tough, and I think losing their defensive coordinator is a big deal. Like the Eagles lost both their coordinators that clearly affected them last year. I think that's a big deal, and they lost a lot of snaps on the defensive side of the ball. They knew they weren't going to be able to keep everybody. So, and at the end of the day, they lost a playoff game where they got behind 3 points and wouldn't run the ball anymore. I mean, I'm not sure that the change in offense.
Well, with Derrick Henry, ideally that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, but how many times is he going to run the ball? But
I mean, more than they did in that game, where it was the least they'd run all season.
They gave up. If Greg Roman was still there, they wouldn't have given up on the run. I'm not saying they beat Kansas City, but they totally panicked. I mean, they're 2nd and 4, and they were throwing 2 deep balls down the field. That's not Lamar's strength. So I think the loss also may have a tailing effect as you move forward about how they played that game and how they hit the panic button.
Good to keep in mind for sure. The Arizona Cardinals, 6.5, another high juice prop, minus 145 on the over, minus 135 on the over for the Raiders, over 6.5, the Raiders.
I don't know about the Cardinals. To me, they're one of the, like, if you put in the unknown category. I know the Raiders have no quarterback. I think that's a big problem. So if you force me to choose, I would take the Cardinals here.
All right, I'm going to rapid fire you these last couple.
Oh, no.
The Texans, 9.5, minus 140, or the Falcons over 9.5, minus 135.
I still think the Texans are very good. I like the way he coaches that team. I like the way they call plays. I'll take Texans. I'm not sold on Cousins.
Okay, and then my last one here, we don't have it in the rundown, but the Carolina Panthers and the New England Patriots, both win totals set at 4.5. Who would you rather take the over?
I would rate to go under 7.5 combined wins. I think they both go under.
Who do you think will be, so this has been a running question on the Lombardi line this week. Who do you think has the number 1 pick in the draft next year? Who's the worst team?
New England.
Why?
I thought they were the worst team last year. I think they're very slow. I don't think they're explosive at all.
You were not buying any of what I was trying to sell last year with their defense being better.
Stop it. Those were meaningless games. Stormy, it's not enough. Can you lead off the next segment with your UFL preview?
Sure. Yeah. I can.
I don't want to shortchange it.
I appreciate you. 4 games coming up in the UFL this weekend as well. I joked because I went on a numbers game earlier this morning that, there was nothing going on today. So, of course, we can spend a full segment on the UFL.
Did you go over to Bar Canada?
No, I did it at home.
You're here for that time anyhow.
I wasn't today,
You're in the showroom 4 hours before the show.
Leave me alone. I stayed home today. We'll be right back. We'll do UFL quickly off the top, and then does Palm have a qualm? Some plus money props. We'll see if Mike has interest or disagrees with. We'll be right back.
This is the Lombardi Line with Stormy Buonantony and Mike Palm on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Sound the trumpets. It's horse racing time. Saddle up for action with DK Horse, an official DraftKings affiliate. Right now, new customers who download the DK Horse app can get a 100% deposit bonus up to $250 when you use the promo code VSiN Horse. That's all one word, VSINHORSE. Just deposit $25 or more and complete the playthrough requirement. Wager on your favorite horses, then watch the races live right inside the app. Download the DK Horse app now. And again, make sure you check out our guy, Mike Somich. He's got a full article up right now on the races for later on this afternoon. He is our horse racing expert, going to break down all things Preakness and dropping his Sama bombs, all the things. Follow him at SamaBomb18 on X. You have a play in the Preakness coming up on Saturday as well.
Well, I'm just following some advice that I was given about the number 8 horse. I'm going to bet the 8 horse. My friend Ken Miller used to be the track announcer at Prairie Meadows, and I do the hit in Iowa with him every Friday morning. I said, give me a horse, Kenny, because I haven't followed this trail. I was out of town for the Derby. And by the way, Bill Cramsey, who's our director of player development, had also mentioned this horse yesterday to me. So I'll put a small wager on him.
I just think that it's fun. Like, you follow some of the people that, like you referenced, that you know are paying attention to this stuff closely. And then I'll do that, and then I'll throw a fun bet on my favorite name. And this time it's Mugatu, 20-1, baby. Let's go.
For years, I've been a horse bettor, especially harness. But once I had children, I don't have the time to devote, because you got to watch these horses race and study the programs and which surface they're good at and the bloodlines. So there's a lot to it.
Okay, I appreciate you. You wanted me to give out some conversation on the UFL today.
I watched 2 UFL games on Sunday. On Mother's Day, my wife was working, and I watched the 2 games that were on. I didn't even know that NBA draft lottery was going on. I read about it later in the day. And here I was watching the DC Defenders. I could have been watching the draft lottery.
Busy. I'm sure you loved everything that you saw from the DC Defenders as well. Woof. That was right on cue. Absolutely, though.
It was awful.
It's been tough. This is a team that last year was like undefeated at home, one of the top teams in the league, played in the championship. They're so different this year. They were so based on this guy named Abram Smith, who was their star running back. He got injured before the season started this year. Their run game is largely existent. Their defense can't tackle. It's a struggle. I'm actually on their game this week on Sunday on ABC in St. Louis against the Battlehawks. Spread in that game is 7.5, total 44.5. But I'm going to talk to their head coach, St. Louis's head coach, Anthony Becht, later on this afternoon. We have our coaches call, and I'm going to talk to some players later today. A.J. McCarron in the broadcast this past weekend, you could hear on the broadcast, he said, I think I broke my ankle. And he ended up finishing the game. They had an opportunity to beat Birmingham, who's the class of the league. They're the best by far, minus 145 to win the league right now.
You said, bet this team at a plus price because it won't last long to be the champion.
Minus 145 now.
I think you were saying that in week 2 or 3, right? From the beginning.
Every week that they were a plus money price, I said bet it because it's not going to be here by the time the championship comes around, and we're through week 7 right now, and it's gone.
Where is the championship at a neutral site?
It'll be in St. Louis.
Okay, so that could be a home game for them.
So
where they draw 40,000 people.
It could, yes. Right now they're at the top of the XFL conference, 5-2. Birmingham 7-0, but St. Louis, I mean, A.J. McCarron is a huge part of what makes them successful.
Well, they're a great offensive team.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, they're one of the top offensive teams in the league, top 3 in just about every offensive category. His backup is Brandon Silvers, who was a starter with the Houston Roughnecks previously. He played at Troy. As far as backups go in the league, he's one of the better ones. He probably could be a starter in this league, but he's not because he's on St. Louis. But that's significant. And so I'll find out more later today, but it doesn't look good for him starting at least this week. And then will that carry over to the remaining games? Because in the XFL conference, these are important games down the stretch. Like DC, for as bad as they've looked, they're still live in the playoff picture. If they win here, if San Antonio loses later on on that Sunday slate,
is this the final week or 2 weeks?
No,
left?
There's 2 weeks left.
Okay.
So, well, 3 technically, right? Because you have this game. I have St. Louis, Arlington the week after that, and then I have Birmingham and Michigan, which is like a preview of the semifinal
Michigan will
game.
be in, right?
Yes, Michigan and Birmingham are playing in the USFL conference final.
And we already know, and that game will be in Birmingham, right?
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, no, it should be. We're going to determine home field this week, actually. So Birmingham needs to win.
The better record.
Yes,
right.
They are 16, 17-point favorite, as you see on your screen, against one of the worst teams in the league this week, which that's interesting, too. They beat Houston at margin covered what this number would be the last time they played in Houston. Will they do it again? I don't know. I don't feel like I want to lay 16 points in
that game was like 12-3 into the fourth quarter. The second game, I'm like, what, Stormy? What have you gotten me into?
Yeah, sorry about that. No, it's hit and miss with some of these games. They're almost always exciting in the fourth quarter, though.
The thing is, it goes fast because of the running clock. That's what I really like about it. There's a good and the shorter play clock. It's a good pace to the game. It's tough because this DC team was so inept offensively. It's hard to watch.
Bets I do think I'll end up on. I'm writing an article for VSiN.com later this afternoon. I'll probably lay the 8.5 points with the Michigan Panthers hosting the Showboats. The total in that one's 47.5. Memphis is just abysmal. They're a really bad team. They're 1-6. The Brahmas, I also think, are a bit of a paper tiger, but they do have an opportunity to cement a spot potentially in the playoffs. I like the Renegades. I know this is ugly. Like, they're 1-6 as well. They're coming off their first win of the season, but I think
they were favored in that game, but they were 0-6.
Yes,
I saw that.
They dominated as well.
Big game Bob.
Yeah. Big game Bob comes through again. I think I'm probably going to take the points with the Renegades in this spot. Yeah. You can get 4. You can get better numbers elsewhere, so shop around on that one. But San Antonio they have 3 of their 5 wins that should not be wins, some of them coming down to like the final seconds of a game. So I'm not on board with San Antonio at all. That said, last couple minutes here. Let's cruise through. Would Palm have a qualm? Are you ready?
Yes.
Would Palm have a qualm with the Denver Broncos to have the fewest wins in the NFL this year, plus 650?
Yes, Sean Payton is not having the fewest wins. You'd have to overcome the teams we talked about previously.
Not a fan of the Patriots and the Panthers.
Panthers and the Patriots.
Can anything get you on? I'm trying to be positive on the Panthers. No belief?
Well, why? What's your association? The great owner?
No.
Why are you pulling for Carolina?
I used to work for the team, for one, and my husband.
The Carolina Panthers?
Correct.
When did you work for the Carolina Panthers? You straight out of school. You were with the Mountain West.
I started the year after they won the Super Bowl.
While you were still in college?
No. When I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Well, I didn't know this whole story.
Yep. It's part of my path, Mike, part of my path. So, yeah, I used to work for the team. I care about them, and my husband is a massive fan.
Well,
He's born and raised in North Carolina. Yeah. So, but they invested a ton of money in their offensive line, so hopefully they don't give up a zillion sacks again, and they're at least a little bit better. How about the Philadelphia Eagles? Most wins, 15-1. They 10-1 before everything fell apart last year.
I think that's a bridge too far. Although, you talk about San Francisco, the tough schedule. I'm going to pass on this. Even it's an interesting price. I have a small qualm.
Okay, small qualm. I should have jumped ahead on this one. Carolina Panthers to be the last winless team, plus 950.
That seems like a nice price for that. I'd have to look at New England's schedule. I know Gil made money betting this prop last year. I think he hit it at 15-1, or he hedged off of it. No, he hit it as part of the why he kept his survivor strategy. Anyhow, he profited a great deal amount off the bet and kind of used it in conjunction with his survivor entries.
As far as their schedule goes, off the top of the ropes here, as I pull it up, they're at New Orleans versus the Chargers, at Vegas, against Cincinnati, Chicago, Atlanta, Washington, Denver. So it just depends how bad you think they are.
How about New England? What's their opening schedule as we go rapid fire here, Stormy?
So much for rapid. Here, hit the Raiders with over 6.5 wins. Hit that one while I'm looking at the Patriots schedule.
Minus 135. Yes, I have a qualm. I want a plus price on over 6.5.
The Patriots schedule open at Cincinnati, Seattle, at the Jets, at San Francisco, versus Miami, versus Houston, versus Jacksonville. Yeah,
Patriots are going to be the team that has the last one to win a game. Carolina will win one of those games.
Just depends on what happens against Seattle week 2 if they could squeak one out. But Seattle should be a lot better.
They won't beat Seattle.
Okay, the Indianapolis Colts to make the playoffs, plus 160. Would you have a qualm?
No qualm.
Cincinnati Bengals to win the division, from worst to first.
No, I like this at all.
What number did you get?
I love it a lot. No, I bet him to win the Super Bowl 13-1.
Ooh, plus 165 to win the division. They and the Chargers, I would guess, if there were a team to be worst to first, would be the only ones worth consideration. But the AFC West is king for the...
They're not Chargers.
I'm just trying to think. If as far as options go... I like what you said about the Chiefs laying the price and feeling comfortable doing that. But I'm saying if there were any 2 reasonable options for division losers, 4th of 4, I would say those are the 2.
I guess so.
J.J. McCarthy to play First snap week 1 plus 115.
This price gets worse and worse every week, from 140 to 125 to 120. Now it's down to 115.
Nobody believes Sam Darnold's the starter for some reason.
Well, he doesn't have any clout to his name like you have to start him. So I don't have a qualm with this.
Would you have a qualm with Drake May starting the first snap week 1 plus 195?
No qualm.
We joked about this in a commercial break. You already said no before I even said it?
They didn't change the schedule for Taylor Swift.
You don't think Mike North thought about it? You don't think he was like,
This is as outrageous as those ugly little candies you brought in here that one day.
The Nerds gummy clusters that you didn't even give a chance?
No, I protected my arteries.
Twitter, come for this man. I'm not having it from you. I'm not having it from producer Justin, who has the audacity to call it a bottom 5 candy. They are addicting, I promise you. Fun show today. Appreciate you all as always. For Mike Palm, I'm Stormy Bonantoni. Have a great rest of your day. Good luck with your bets.